Over 40 people have been arrested in the Lebanese capital Beirut during a fourth night of unrest. What started as demonstrations over a breakdown in the city's rubbish removal system turned into violent protests. Scores were injured in the clashes. Lebanon's cabinet failed to reach agreement on how best to deal with the crisis. However, as a gesture of appeasement, the authorities did decide they'd take down a wall they'd only just put up surrounding the government palace. That had been erected on Monday to protect the area from protesters. Meantime, calls for the government to step down are getting louder. News RT's Paul Aslier in Beirut.
The situation here certainly is increasing dramatically. I'm standing with the protesters who are marching their way closer to the police, who are just a short distance in front of us, holding battalions and batons. There is a lot of tension here right now, so the next few moments will actually tell whether the situation will escalate, which seems highly likely. It's difficult to tell exactly how it's going to de-escalate. And it really is a confrontation with the protesters here jeering and chanting at the police who are just in front of them.
Other groups might be participating. Well, they are participating. We have groups like Hezbollah, they are participating already with the protest, but mainly the main NGO is telah, which is basically translated into English as you stink. But during the week, you would see more and more other groups than you stink. You would see groups such as Shabab ضد النظام, Youngs against the regime, Shabab ضد النظام.
So the calls for new elections and for the government to step down, and Lebanon is starting to bear quite a resemblance to Tunisia then during the uprising there 5 years ago. That, of course, led to the ousting of the government at the time and then that big wave of protests that swept through the Middle East. The unrest in Tunisia, if you look back at it, started after a trader set himself on fire back then. Police confiscated his produce. It was a small event, but then the local officials refused to hear his complaint and it escalated. Frustration over local government policies also lies at the core of Lebanon's protest too. Demonstrators in Tunisia accused the government of corruption at the time. Similar accusations are being heard now in Lebanon. Also, security forces were deployed in both countries to quell the protests. Now, while Tunisia's president fled the country following the unrest there again, maybe some similarities happening here now, the Lebanese PM said that he may step down. We spoke to several experts to get their view. The consensus is that we could be witnessing a new Arab Spring just around the corner in Lebanon.
The Arab Spring basically fizzled in Libya, not least because of NATO bombing led by the United States. The Arab Spring did not work out very well in Egypt either because of this dislodging of the Muslim Brotherhood President Mohammed Morsi. So if you talk about an Arab Spring in Lebanon, I'm not sure if that's a reason for optimism.
Take into consideration, it initially began with regards to the Lebanese government's failure to clean up rubbish. And now we're hearing the slogans. Ashab, Yurid, Iskat, and Nidam. The people are looking for the downfall of the government. This is what the people from Tunisia all the way to Syria were chanting throughout the Arab Spring. So are we heading towards that direction again? Are we seriously looking at the downfall of the Lebanese government? I definitely wouldn't rule that out.
A lot more news coming up after the break, including the latest on the spiralling migrant crisis in Europe and details too of a shooting emerging here in Russia.